What's up everyone, Dragon back again for another edition of the Kaiju Cataclysm. Behold our beautiful new set. I said it in one of the previous videos, I think it was for the You Should Be Watching, where we have just moved. We moved from Cincinnati, Ohio to Tacoma, Washington. We're basically just south of Seattle. But we are going to be moving again probably within a month and a half, 2 months, because we are going to be moving into a house. We just had to get here first, and now we're house hunting. So this is kind of a temporary setup. So because of that, we're not really unpacking much of our stuff. Just kind of the bare necessities, just to kind of live, couch, bed, and stuff for the kitchen, computer stuff, obviously. But we're not unpacking all our figures and all our posters because, you know, a couple months we're just gonna have to do it all over again. And it's just easier to leave it all in boxes so we can make the move just that much easier. So for the time being, this is kind of it. So I apologize that it's not as you know, aesthetically pleasing to look at, but you know, you still got this handsome fella on screen. But anyway, so yeah, wanted to kind of jump back in here. There's been some, you know, definitely some worthy kaiju related news worthy of talking about. San Diego Comic-Con 2019 has come and went, and as far as I could tell, there was no panel about Godzilla vs. Kong. And if there was something, no one was talking about it. However, the Toho booth at San Diego Comic-Con did very well, and from there we actually learned a lot of new information. One of the executives there and was only too happy to kind of talk to the media and kind of express kind of vague to some degree, but I think more concrete or more important than I think a lot of people give it credit for, kind of information. And basically he kind of talked about the future of Godzilla as a whole, without, now that he was very careful not to give like specific news. In terms of when I say specific news, I mean he's not saying, okay, this specific project is happening or that specific movie is happening, but he did kind of give like a general consensus of what Toho as a studio was planning to doing moving forward with the character of Godzilla. So first of all, they've been talking about how happy they are with Godzilla King of the Monsters. Now we're not going to get into the whole box office thing or this or that, or we're just talking about them saying the way that movie was made, the quality of the film, the type of film it is, they were very happy. And they basically kind of instantly said that they love the fact that there are essentially kind of two Godzillas out there. There's kind of the homegrown Japanese Godzilla that tradition has always been for just the Japanese market. And then there's also this more Western Hollywood Godzilla, where it's more of an international Godzilla, kind of more like a the vibe I was kind of getting from the statement was more kind of like a what's the word, like some kind of a delegation. No, not delegation, an ambassador. There you go. Delegation. What the hell am I talking about? Kind of like a Godzilla in a more ambassador kind of capacity, where this is the Godzilla that is going out into the world and introducing the world to Godzilla, and then bringing people back into kind of Toho, which is what is now going to be what is Godzilla's going to be funneling out. Now, in addition, they did say they have plans to continue licensing out Godzilla to Western studios. Now, we don't know if that means the continuation of the MonsterVerse. We don't know if that just kind of means in general, like, hey, you know, maybe Universal wants to make a Godzilla movie. Okay, we'll license it to Universal. Hey, maybe Disney wants to make a Godzilla movie. Hey, we'll license it to Disney. We don't know if that means there could be multiple Western Godzilla continuities and or films happening at once. We don't know if that just means maybe for stuff for like commercials or marketing different things. You remember like in 2014, there was that whole Godzilla Snickers commercial where he was riding like a four-wheeler and he was on a jet ski, you know. That was a Western commercial, but the character of Godzilla was licensed out by Toho to appear in that commercial. So it could mean that, or it could mean all of the above, where they're basically going to say, you know what, Godzilla doesn't have to fit in one specific continuity. It's kind of like, listen, you want to use Godzilla? Great, so as long as you're A, willing to pay for him, and B, you're going to do right by him, like you're going to follow our very strict mandates of what you can and cannot do with him. Sure, why not? I mean, Toho is making a buck off it, and they're not really assuming much financial risk. I know they've said they're going to basically putting forward 20% of a production budget for any of these, you know, kind of licensed out productions of the character, but that's still not, you know, the major financial share, meaning that they don't have to make as much back for them to not only just break even, but to actually turn a profit. So for them, it's kind of like, hey, you know what, it works. One of the things I talked about is saying that they are very much interested in using the medium of animation to tell more Godzilla stories. Now, they were kind of quick to point out too that they weren't sure if they were going to do more within the kind of monster planet, sitting on the edge of battle series of animated films, but still using animation as a medium. And I hope that also means 2D animation, or at the very least, if they're going to do 3D animation, really use 3D animation to its strength. What I mean by that is not trying to take 3D animation and make it look like 2D. Because unfortunately it just doesn't work. 2D animation is a different beast than 3D animation. It's a different approach. One of the great examples is like the new Saint Seiya film that's coming out. It's going to be on Netflix, and it's 3D animation, and it's Toho doing it. And it looks great. It's smooth, it's polished, it is utilizing the medium of 3D correctly. So if they want to do 3D animation, I'm hoping they kind of go in that direction. But however, I would not be opposed to kind of an old school 2D animated style Godzilla film, basically the kind of Godzilla anime I would have loved to have seen like in the 90s. So I would love for them to do something like that too. But they definitely have plans moving forward. Again, they have not confirmed or denied the continuation of the MonsterVerse, so we have no idea. They're not saying much. They're just basically telling you there's going to be more Godzilla coming in different ways all over the place very soon, but they're not giving out any specific details. They did talk a little bit about the whole cinematic universe thing, because initially one of the CEOs at Toho had said they wanted to do their own Godzilla cinematic universe, and that's something we've talked about here on this channel. The gentleman they spoke to at San Diego Comic-Con basically said that they essentially want to give the directors kind of creative license to do what they want. Now, if they want to kind of tell an ongoing continuity, they're going to be free to do so. Again, as long as they adhere to the rules of what Godzilla is supposed to be, they can essentially put him in any story they want. Or they're free to kind of tell their own original kind of one-off. It could be like another Shin thing where it's like Shin Godzilla was very much a one-and-done story. That was it. There was no before, there was no after. There's just Shin. And they are more than willing to let directors do that, much like a lot of the films in the Millennium series, with the exception of Godzilla against Mechagodzilla, Godzilla Tokyo SOS. All those other movies were just kind of one-offs, versus like the Heisei era, which was an ongoing continuity. Even though it was kind of loosely connected towards the middle, it felt, but kind of brought it all back together with Destroya. So that's interesting. The other interesting thing is too is that they've basically have come out and said that Shin Godzilla will be considered, if I'm not mistaken, the first Godzilla film in the Reiwa era, which is the new era in Japan. I know when we think of the Heisei era, we think of Godzilla 84 up through Destroya, and then Godzilla 2000 will start the millennium. But the reality is, technically, the 84 Godzilla film was still part of the Showa era, and the Heisei era didn't technically start till 1989, and only just recently ended. But in terms of how the Godzilla movies are broken up, 84 through 95 is the Heisei era, 99 through 2004 is the Millennium era, and now it seems like they're saying that Shin was the start of the Reiwa era. Even though I personally would just kind of throw in Godzilla 2014 in that too, just because otherwise where else are you going to really put it? And that was the film that kind of ushered in this new era of Godzilla anyway, so I feel it deserves to be in that category too, just honestly for simplicity's sake of classifying it. So with all this, we know that Godzilla's future is in fact secure, that he is in good hands, and that, as we already stated before in the last episode where we talked about Toho being at San Diego Comic-Con, that they are now they are now taking hold of all things Godzilla, even the stuff that they're going to be licensing out. This is going to be a situation where they're going to be very much kind of captains of the ship, and again, it's going to be interesting too, because by the way, we have a little fluff monster here, keeps trying to get my attention. Or you have my attention now. What are you gonna do? Okay. She instantly regrets. She's like, oh, wait a minute. But to see Toho maybe kind of arise as more of a key player in Hollywood is going to be something that's very interesting, because of that, we're going to see Godzilla now as less of a niche market. I mean, Godzilla probably will always be a niche market, as unfortunately some of the box office returns of King of the Monsters have shown that Godzilla right now is not going to be drawing in the same amount of financial pool as like a Marvel film or basically a superhero film, but by kind of sprinkling Godzilla around, using different avenues, maybe introducing Godzilla to people in different ways. So it would be a commercial, some kind of animation, some another movie. People are going to be introduced to Godzilla in different capacities, games even. So the next time we see maybe another large budget Godzilla film, Godzilla have already been kind of introduced to the masses in enough different ways where now there's a familiarity with Godzilla outside of just kind of the main fandom. But there are people who kind of understand Godzilla now and are more curious to see him. I mean, again, Toho going to San Diego Comic-Con was a big step. It was a nice introduction probably to Godzilla for a lot of people who are not really familiar with the character. Again, they know who Godzilla is. They're familiar with the kind of the iconography that is Godzilla, but beyond that, nothing much. So this is was a great introduction, and it was such a big move on Toho's part to do something like that. And that shows them now a willingness to kind of really just kind of take off some of the restraints that this character has had in terms of licensing and, you know, cross-marketing, and really make it a focus saying, okay, we're not going to just try to make Godzilla this very private, little tiny niche thing for this one specific market. We're going all in with this. We're going to turn Godzilla into a global brand that is kind of on equal footing with how he's perceived in Japan. So again, the news we kind of got from the booth was substantial. Again, it didn't give us like specific details. Say, okay, and in 2021 we have this Godzilla movie coming up, but they're basically saying from that moment on we are going to be releasing Godzilla stuff. So very, very soon you're going to be learning about what's coming out. It won't be like, oh, okay, after Godzilla vs. Kong, what's happening? We're going to start getting just kind of this deluge, if you will, of just information that's coming out. So we're going to start knowing like there's going to be this project and that project. So it's a little frustrating because you know there's all these things they have planned that they're just waiting to kind of, you know, pull the trigger on, but we're just kind of like waiting to hear what those are. We're not allowed to know yet. And I get a feeling that a lot of the stuff is going to come in the wake of Godzilla vs. Kong. As much as I'm looking forward to that movie, having another Godzilla movie, I'm also very much looking forward to seeing what's coming out after that, because Godzilla vs. Kong right now as a stand is kind of like, you know, the front gates to this huge, you know, theme park that is the Godzilla franchise behind it. It's kind of like, you know, you look at Jurassic Park and you see the big gates that open up, you know, as they drive through. I kind of feel like that's Godzilla vs. Kong. It's the gateway to this new future of Godzilla, regardless of what the ultimate fate of that movie will be, how it'll be received, you know, this or that. It's once that movie is kind of going and out, that's from there and on out, we're going to start seeing that this era of to really Toho controlled Godzilla, because up until recently, it's been pretty much kind of legendary, even though we've only had 2 come out. I mean, it's those films that have kind of made Godzilla more of a global name again, and then there was Shin, which is still kind of played more for the Japanese market. But from this moment on, we're going to really see Godzilla go global. We're going to see a globalization of this character and the brand he represents from the studio that created him in a way that we've never seen before. So from just a kind of a business perspective, this is going to be an amazing time for Toho, and an era in which I'm very curious to see how they're going to approach with, you know, what their plans are. And in terms of, again, just Godzilla, there's, you know, media now has become so vast and varied and diverse that it's no longer just the movies. It's, you know, again, streaming media is, you know, it has some of the most, you know, popular programming out there now. I mean, this has been a record year for movies and theaters to not do as well, or rather underperform, where they're not necessarily considered bad movies. It's just not as many people are going out to the movies. And, you know, we've seen that with Godzilla, unfortunately, but we've seen that with a lot of other movies. I mean, pretty much all the big tentpole films, minus Marvel films, have all underperformed. So it's not just that it was this movie. We're seeing a gradual shift away from people going out to the movies in favor of staying home. You know, so I think Toho will probably start again utilizing, you know, streaming services again. The animated trilogy, you know, whether you loved it, hated, were disappointed, you know, it might, you know, its legacy might not ultimately be, you know, the, you know, most worthwhile entry in the Godzilla franchise, but it utilized a new medium, a new platform that did not exist prior, like when we were doing the Millennium films. So I feel Toho is wisely going to probably continue using this platform, whether they use to distribute Godzilla movies or using just for animation, or maybe doing a combination of the two. But there's so much more at their disposal now. The gaming industry has exploded and become this massive multi-billion-dollar, global enterprise now. That to ignore that and to not, tap into that market for Godzilla, I think would be foolish. And I'm not just talking about just the old school, like tournament match Godzilla film, but doing big, long story-formed, narratives, is now something that's become very popular in video games, and you can do very well in video games. Because essentially, you have like the length and breadth of what you use a novel for to tell a story, but you can do that in a visual medium that is very kind of hands-on and user-friendly. So I would not be surprised if we could see like a large Godzilla RPG. That would be very interesting to see, actually. So there's so much at their disposal, and I think that for them to be kind of talking as big as they are, for them to kind of be talking about how they are branching out, they're moving out, for them to be that confident and to be saying things like that, they have to be gearing up to utilize all these new avenues they have at their disposal. Because there's so much now. There's so many different ways to market, to brand, to introduce people to this character. And not even just Godzilla, but just the kaiju genre as a whole. I mean, Godzilla has always really been the poster child for kaiju cinema, and I don't think that is going to stop. I don't think it should stop. I think that is his rightful place. Godzilla truly is the king of the monsters, and I think he should sit atop this genre, and really from him, all other kaiju films can disseminate. I'm not saying in terms of continuity, but just kind of like when people first think about kaiju films, they'll think of Godzilla, and by diving into Godzilla, they learn more about this genre, this market, and from there, other studios or even just Toho can produce other kaiju content, regardless if it's for the big screen, small screen, video games, whatever. Again, utilizing the various forms of media out there now to kind of just do something with this character. So that's pretty much it right now, I guess. I mean, again, I would love to talk more about it, but at this point it feels I'm just kind of talking in circles, because beyond all that, they haven't actually said what they're doing. We've heard a lot of maybes, a lot of possibilities, but we do know for sure that from post Godzilla vs. Kong, it is going to be Godzilla World. It really truly will be a Planet of the Monsters, because Toho has big plans, no pun intended, for Godzilla on a global scale, and I'm very excited and curious to see what exactly that's going to entail. Are they going to have multiple continuities running at the same time? Are we going to have just different movies? If they are licensing out this character, that means they're not necessarily beholden to one studio. They might be beholden to one studio with this deal to make this Godzilla movie, but then they might be able to go to this other studio at the same time, like, hey, well, you guys want to make a Godzilla movie too? Why not? Why not? People say, well, you can't have all these different Godzilla movies coming out. Why the hell not? Who cares? Godzilla has always existed in multiple facets, different continuities. He's more about the character himself rather than just the individual movie he's in. So, and for Toho, they're making the money because these other studios are taking the bulk of the financial risk. So for them, play it different ways. Try different Godzilla movies. You could have Universal making a much more darker, more serious Godzilla film, akin to Shin 84, 54. Maybe Disney will make one that's a lot more big and fun. Hey, they have, the rights to Marvel, right? And, hey, there was like Godzilla versus Avengers in this comic in the 70s. Shit, we could see that on the big screen. Why not, right? Hell, the MonsterVerse could continue, and we could see more of that. A new animated series or series of films, could be produced for various streaming media, whether it's, again, Netflix, Amazon, whatever. So many possibilities, and I just really, really want to know what's happening. Even if I don't hear about all of them, if I can just really want to hear, like, give me one concrete thing that's happening. But alas, we have to wait. Such is the nature of this industry, this business, unfortunately. But it tends to be, all good things to those who wait. So, but I don't think we're going to be waiting long. I mean, as it is, the next big thing I think is going to be the finally them releasing a trailer for Godzilla vs. Kong. I think that needs to happen much sooner than later. So hopefully do that. And once kind of the hype train for that, the market for that, I think Toho might even start building off that momentum even before that movie comes out. Really just start maybe even getting people more interested for that movie, so people don't think, oh, it's just a one and done and that's it. No, that's just one of numerous Godzilla related projects coming out. So to kind of just dive into Godzilla as a character rather than just an individual movie. So you'll have Godzilla vs. Kong, you might have Godzilla this over here, Godzilla that over there, but just kind of generate just a general kind of build up and excitement for Godzilla himself as a character and all the different facets he appears in media. But yeah, so that is going to do it for this one. Again, not terribly long. Just kind of wanted to kind of go over a little bit what we kind of learned from Comic-Con, because on the surface it might seem like they didn't really say much. We didn't get a trailer for Godzilla vs. Kong. I think they actually said a lot more than I think most people realize they did, and what the implications of what could be on the horizon based on what they said. So now it's just kind of a matter of waiting to see what the specifics of those are. You know, what are the exact specific projects going to be, and when are they going to start coming? Because you better believe they have all this stuff planned. They're not just waiting for like 2020, 2021 to start thinking of stuff to do. They've got stuff lined up, probably stuff already in pre-production, getting ready to go. Hell, they could even have things in production. And then, you know, when it's time, they just start dropping things like boom, boom, boom. Would not be surprised at all. So I don't think it's going to be very long before we just start having a continuous, you know, news stream of Godzilla coming out where there's always something new to talk about. I think that's kind of the direction we're going in, and I'm very excited because, again, it sounds like it's a great time to be a Godzilla fan and just a kaiju fan by and large. But anyway, guys, that is going to do it for this one. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you on the next one. Peace!